Oh, right. Okay, hold on one second.
So they don't really move, do they?
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to Recovery Chat. I have a very special guest with us tonight, Dana Cohen. She is with Insight Psychological Services, um, but she was a counselor at Livingren, and Dana saved my life. You know, it's really hard when you're first starting out. She got me through some really rough patches, and boy, there were some rough patches. But she really helped me through it and got me as strong as I am. She is one of the reasons that I do things like this. I just knew that there was a need for the family and the parents out there. Going down to Kensington and helping out, I saw again the need for the family members as our loved ones were getting all the food, all the clothes, all the help that they needed. They had all the resources at their hands. They just had to be ready for it. So it was nice to see that Dana was holding a parent group, family member group for the loved ones. So with that, there is Dana Cohen.
Thank you.
You're
So,
welcome.
yeah, it's great to be here. It's really cool. So, no, I mean, I will still never forget the day that, I met you. Seriously,
She
Not,
didn't know my
not,
name, couldn't say it.
exactly. But no, I mean, I definitely, that was a very
Yes.
memorable time,
Yeah, but about 4 weeks of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I still remember that when you said, you did not want to come back, it was pretty scary to hear a lot of the things that you heard. And for whatever reason, you were like, no, I'm going to go back. And you
Yes.
did. And each time you still heard scary stuff, but
Yeah.
you came back. And that's really all we can ask, is that, you sit with that discomfort and you try, and you get out of your comfort zone and have an open mind and just, get to talk. And even if you don't talk, which you couldn't talk, right?
Yeah. No, it took
You
5 weeks.
could
It
not say
literally
your
took
name.
5 weeks.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we can giggle about it now, but
Yeah.
it was not a giggling matter back
No,
then.
no,
No,
back then it was a scary
you were in
matter.
a lot of pain, a
Yes.
lot of pain, and then, and I don't remember Rich coming right away. Did
No, he came on the fifth week,
Okay, all
and
right,
that's when I could finally say my name.
yeah.
The very first meeting, my sister was in from California, and she is the one that helped me walk in the door
Ah,
because I don't know if you're a loved one out there, even those that are in recovery or coming right out of recovery. Hey Janet, how you doing? Even coming right out of recovery, people have a hard time walking into the room.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So I know how difficult it would be for me to even go into the room. So I was lucky enough to have my sister with me, and she came to the first meeting with me. Aunt Sue came to the second one, and the third and fourth I came by myself.
mm-hmm,
And even they couldn't say anything. They couldn't,
mm-hmm, yeah,
it's one of those things. And in the beginning, it's the shame, it's
mm-hmm,
oh my God, is somebody going to know me
mm-hmm,
kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's a hard thing to get over. So,
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, just and that's kind of where it's kind of, it's weird to say I'm glad that parents experience that, because but you can then relate to your sons and daughters, and not just parents, I mean anybody that has a loved one. But when you walk into a parent group or an R-Anon, an Al-Anon or something, and you're scared out of your mind, and you don't even know how to say your name, like you're able to then relate to your son or daughter, whoever, that when they walk into an AA or
Exactly.
NA or CA meeting for a rehab,
Mm-hmm.
for the first time, scared out of their minds,
Mm-hmm.
that was always a big goal of mine, working
Right.
with families, was to get you guys to be able to relate, um, to your loved ones, because
Mm-hmm.
that's when you really, can, I mean, see the change, like,
Mm-hmm.
because until you can really, like, truly empathize and have those feelings, that's, the knowledge, yes, that the knowledge and the education is important, but
Mm-hmm.
it's when that you have those feelings, that's a lot of times when change
Mm-hmm.
happens. So,
Yeah.
so as horrible as it was for you, I'm glad, because it was memorable. You'll
Yes.
never forget that.
No.
You know,
No.
and you could relate to your, to your son in a way that,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't have prior to
Yeah.
that.
And it is. And I'm it'll be 6 years in October. Not that, like, I don't know where I'm. I think 5 years, 4 months, 5 months,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be into this. So it's me coming to the meeting still. It's me giving back to those parents, because I don't like to go in and say, "Oh yeah, my son's got 5.5 years." Woo, woo,
God, 5.5 years. My goodness.
woo.
Holy
Yes.
crap.
So it's not,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's
Well, okay. Well, when did you start coming then?
October.
October.
It was the second week of October
Mm-hmm.
in what was 2016. It'll be 6 years. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 6, 15, 14.
Yeah.
14,
Yeah. Wow.
2014. So, I
Wow.
mean, that's how long it's been, and
Yeah.
he's 5.5 years,
Right.
God willing,
Mm-hmm.
this month.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
to go back, and they're so welcoming. It's like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like too much welcoming,
Yeah.
because you're in such a state,
Mm-hmm.
and you just feel like, oh my gosh, this is a cult. They're coming after me. They want me. And so it's hard, especially if you're not that kind of person. I'm a very shy person, believe it or not.
No, I know.
Believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes me a little time to get warmed up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and that's, I mean, even if you are shy, like, just being able to just sit and listen, like, you don't
Yeah.
have to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can just sit and listen. You're not going to like everything that you hear, and,
No.
and that's okay. But you still come, you
Ex-
still, and then, you know, I mean, that's why they always say too, like, like at least 6 times, because, like, if, like, a lot of the emotion is so there, it's like, if you base it on that, you're probably not going to ever really, come
right.
back.
Exactly.
But,
Exactly.
and I'll never forget still with you, over the years, like, talking about how, like, I wanted to shove the slogans down people's throats,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, well, tell us how you really feel,
Yeah. Exactly.
it's the honesty, and how, like, yeah, sometimes the slogans are cliche, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you just want to kind of be like, yeah, all right, like, because you're in
Mm-hmm.
pain. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember sometimes family members would come in and be like, everyone's too happy. And,
Yeah.
there's laughter, like,
Yeah.
why are people laughing? Like, this is, we're, in so much pain. So, so you hear you hear the sadness, and you hear
Mm-hmm.
the recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, I mean, I definitely miss it. I mean, I still do try to, especially now with COVID. I was having an in-person parent group, trying to do, like, at least once a month, but then COVID obviously
Mm-hmm.
hit. So I'm hoping to get back in when COVID hopefully starts to calm down this spring. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a special group,
It is.
It really
It's
is.
still, and we're still connected. We're still,
Mm-hmm.
even though we're not meeting in person,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the same members are still coming back. I still am in touch with a lot of the members. And Tuesday nights, we Living Grin still has the parent group, and it's done on Blue
Mm-hmm.
Jeans. So I invite a lot of people there. I
Mm-hmm.
share all the time, and it's just important for the family members, and friends
Mm-hmm.
and girlfriends, boyfriends,
Mm-hmm.
partners. It's just so important for people to get out there and know
Yes.
that there is hope. There is support, and we didn't do anything wrong. Our children, our family, they didn't do anything wrong. They got caught up in something that was beyond them, and trying to make somebody that has such a just such a view on addiction. I know I did. I know I was very judgmental, but that happens to be just from being, being brought up around addiction. So I had a lot of resentment. So just learning, and you taught me so much. It's unbelievable the amount of strength that you gave me. It was just the people in the meeting in the beginning, I just wanted to spit in all of their faces. I really did. I mean, I'm telling you, that's what I wanted to
No,
do.
I
They were
know.
telling me what I did not want to hear,
Right.
and I was not real happy about it.
Well, and like you said, I remember you saying, that at first you would hear them say, "Oh, you got to kick your kid out of the house," but as you sat and listened, that's really not what they were saying,
Right.
right? And I think that's a really big misconception a lot of times that families, that they don't want to go to groups like that because like they're, oh, they're going to tell me that I'm the problem, I'm the
Right.
enabler, and that I just need to kick them out, and it's like, yeah, I mean, like, I mean, that might be for some people, but it's I think what we learn is you're not kicking them out, so to
Right.
say,
You're
right?
giving them the
Right.
choice.
Giving them the choice, and also it's not always about what's best for them, but we have to do like also what's best
Right.
for us, as
Right.
But yeah, it's very difficult to hear, So, and we may just it may get distorted because of our emotions, like how sometimes people in recovery go into AA meetings and like, oh, all they talk about, is getting high, and now I want to get high even more because that's all they're talking, and it's like, well, you can also listen to people talking about their recovery too, like, so it just goes to show, like, what you're, if you're open minded to something, you're going to hear what you want to hear. If
Exactly.
you're like, this is a bunch of crap, you're going to hear a
This is
bunch of crap.
exactly. And
So.
you pick and choose what you want to hear. You really do. And when I first started going, that's what I was like. Yeah, you people are nuts. You can go to hell. You think I'm throwing my kid out in the street? Like,
Yeah. And that's the thing is, no one's really telling you what to do. The hope is for groups like that it's not like you need to do this, or it's like, hey, this worked for me, it might work for you. You're getting some of the professional experience, people's personal
right,
experience, but just and no judgment,
right,
hopefully, right?
right.
That's the
And
goal.
that is, it's a first timer. And that's why I like to go back and keep going back, because I also am someone that has somebody in long term recovery. And I like to go back and remind myself where I was.
Yep.
And I also like to let the new members know what you're hearing is not what they're telling you, because that's so important, because it's just what we hear. We don't want to hear that.
Well, and I think in any kind of, with recovery, it's important with the giving back, and that's what, people, addicts and alcoholics are being taught that, in the rooms, to give back and be a part of service. And, the family members, the same thing, like if you said, okay, thanks guys, thanks for everything, I'm all better now, and you leave, if everyone did that, there would be no
Exactly. There
group,
would be no,
right? Like
yes,
it would
exactly.
crumble. So it's built on people that got the help and stay so that they can then help others, because there's always going to be a newcomer
Yes.
walking through that door that is so upset they can't say their name. So, now, and I say this, I would say it to people in rehab, patients, I'd say, it's not just out of the kindness of your heart, like it's your responsibility, as part of this program to give back to it. And I hope that families can kind of get that same
Feel
value.
it is.
know.
It's that's so important. And they call it a we program, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a and it's so funny, because with the parent group, I just feel a complete connection with my people in parent group. I just feel a calm. They're just they're just true people
Mm-hmm.
that were where I was. And I remember thinking, like, you people don't even understand. This is my only child. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have no clue. And to
Mm-hmm.
go to a meeting and hear, like, my one's in jail, my one's in rehab, the other one's on the street, don't know where
Mm-hmm.
they are. And
Yep.
it's like, oh, okay, I'll just sit here and be quiet because apparently you have it a lot worse than I do. You know,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
it's eye opening.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, no, I mean, and I am seeing in one of the comments, somebody asking, like, when you stop feeling guilty, that, feeling like you've abandoned. And, I mean, that's a question I would get a lot, and
mm-hmm,
I don't think you can ever really stop feeling. I mean, like, guilt is a very difficult emotion to even feel, but, it's like when you try to, like, stop yourself from feeling anything, whether it's guilt or anger or, whatever, good luck with that. Like, you're going to
mm-hmm,
exert so much more energy trying to, make yourself not feel that, rather maybe just kind of acknowledge it, accept
mm-hmm,
it, maybe, with the guilt, you know, forgiving yourself, before
mm-hmm,
you can, forgive somebody else, or, and it's like, sometimes you have to look at the behavior, and it's like, what are you really feeling guilty about? Like, it's like the word abandonment. Like, are you really abandoning, or are you detaching?
right.
And that was a really, really difficult thing to teach people, family members, to even really understand yourself, the
Mm-hmm.
concept of detachment. It's broad, and it's not, it's an action.
Right.
It's not something that, it's just you write it down on paper, like, this is what detachment is. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
something you have to actually live and be. So, I think, in answer to that person's question, like, feeling guilty and that feeling like you're abandoning, is understanding that detachment is not abandonment.
Right.
You're
Right.
detaching with love,
Mm-hmm.
and, people can detach with anger, and that's maybe for some where the
Mm-hmm.
abandonment or the cutting you off, turning your back on
Right.
comes into play. But, for the most part, setting boundaries and, doing that in a loving way, it's not
Right.
abandonment.
Right. And even still, like, my loved one went to Florida for recovery after 2 stints here in Pennsylvania. He ended up in Florida, and even when he was here, I just would send like little inspirational memes or just a little something. And just so he knew that I was here, that I
Mm-hmm.
cared, that, this is,
Mm-hmm.
I'll always have a place.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's in my house or not,
Mm-hmm.
he's always loved and he's always supported.
Mm-hmm.
Where, and I understand some of us can't really do that because of, the
Logistics.
homelessness and,
Mm-hmm.
because they chose that lifestyle. It's
Mm-hmm.
not because you put them out there, it's because you chose to live a healthy life for yourself in your own home
Mm-hmm.
and be safe.
Yeah.
And they chose the lifestyle they've gotten accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
So, so they may not have a phone or anything, but
Yeah.
as long as they know, like when you do see them, you send them off with a sandwich and, a note of something inspiration, just so
Mm-hmm.
that they know that,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, you can still be, doing that in a loving way and be respectful,
right.
like, and I'll always remember one of the dads in parent group sharing that, with his, his son, and, it was his wife and his, they had a daughter, and, like, they would go to kick the kid out of the house, and it would be a Jerry Springer moment. They'd be rustling around on the front lawn, cops would be called, the neighbors are all outside, mom and sister are crying, hysterical, and it's this whole scene. And that was pretty much, like every couple of months, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, mom and dad did start, getting educated, going to R&R, all
Mm-hmm.
that. And the one, it came down to it again, and, they said to the kid, like, look, you can live here, no one does drugs in this house.
Right.
Mom and dad, sister, or the dog, no one does drugs, so if you decide to do drugs again, you're gonna have to leave. And basically putting it like, well, then that's a choice too. Like, you're choosing to do
Mm-hmm.
drugs. You know the consequences, that means now you're gonna have to leave the house. So when it came down to it, I'll never forget the dad saying, he was like, I there was no Jerry Springer moment. It wasn't loud. It was actually done very quiet. He said, I love you. You need to leave, you know. And the kid, you know, did speak, you know, in recovery, you know, after that, and told in his story, you know, that he, you know, he knew something was very different that day. He didn't see the vein popping out of his dad's head. You know, he knew, you know, mom and sister weren't hysterically crying. There wasn't a lot of drama. They were very matter of fact. They were just very serious. You need to leave this house. And he knew, like, all right, this is it, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, and whether or not he got sober after that isn't really the point.
Right.
You know, like that's the thing. A lot of families think, okay, I'm gonna put you out of this house, and you know what? You're gonna then hit rock bottom, and you're gonna get, you know, so to such a low point that you're gonna be like, okay, all right, I'll go to
Whatever you
treatment.
want.
And you might, and they might not. You know, that you kick them out of the house, they may say, all right, see ya, and they pitch a tent in the woods, or they couch surf, or they go find another, you know, family member to, you know, manipulate, and you're doing that because that's about, you know, your sanity too,
Your
and
safety.
your safety and sanity. Yeah, I mean, I would talk a lot about that in, you know, the education. This is not just about, yes, sanity, but safety. I mean, you know, God forbid, a million
Right.
times, you know. So, so yeah.
I know two moms that ended up in the hospital just from the stress of their loved
Oh, yeah.
one using. And that's not even loved ones that were living in the house. Some of them some of them were. Like,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. And when you go into the meetings, the judgment, it's just not there. You're not judged. Because we've all felt what they have felt at one point or another.
Yep.
And some have been in it longer than others. So some may, you know, it may have been a one and doneer and they're
Right.
good. It may have been somebody that's, you know, been dealing with it for 2-3 years, but there's some that have been dealing with it for 27 years.
Right.
And I've actually heard somebody said, I just want them to die because the pain that they saw their loved one in, not the pain that they were feeling because they were getting the help for themselves. To hear that come out of a parent's mouth is just like,
And but they can say that in there.
yes.
And, you know, and not get the
Right.
gasps and the
Right.
hard looks on, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I didn't have to experience all of that because I can't even imagine having to experience that and deal with that. I can understand the desperation. I totally can understand it. I can't, you know, imagine what they go through, just the pain,
Yeah.
and and how scary it is, you know.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, knowing that you're not alone, okay, like, you know, then you start to get into like a deeper level, and it's like, you know, then you start to say some stuff like that, and you know, and to not get, you know, the hard looks, you know, on people's faces, and to know, like, I've thought that too, you know, like I've taken an insurance policy out on my kid. I've already, you know, picked out, you know, funeral arrangements, you know, like you say that to a friend or a coworker, and they'd be like,
And they're
oh
like,
my
"What
goodness,
are you
what?
nuts? Like,
Yeah,
you need to
exactly.
be hospitalized.
Right,
You're losing your
exactly.
mind."
So the safety that, you know, it's a sanctuary really to be able to come in, and you're not going to agree with everyone, and and like you said, you're not going to always relate to everyone's experience. You might not be there. I mean, I heard lots of parents say, you know, I've never felt anger, whereas other parents, that's all they did feel. So, you know, it's not, you know, just because you're able to relate to one another doesn't mean you're going to have the same, all of you know, there's so many different types of experiences, you know. I mean, I mean, when you were in group, you would have parents in there. Some of their kids were actively using, others were in treatment, you know, in recovery, or you know. So it's like there's so many, you know, some of the kids were 18 years old, and some of them were, you know, in their 50s. You know, like, so it definitely varied.
Right.
You know.
Gregory has a question. What happens if your son or daughter know the laws and he won't leave? The police will not remove him because he lives there. What do you do then?
That's a great question, and I learned the hard way in parent group. Is saying, hey, okay, well, you got to have the kid leave, and lo and behold, it's against the law.
Right.
And
Especially if it's an
yeah,
age thing.
yes, spoiler alert. Yeah, no, it's very. But I wish I had more of an answer, but I do know some of the route people have taken is eviction.
Yes.
And it's not an easy process, I don't think. Well, I don't want to say easy. I mean, it's tedious. Like, you have to go to the courthouse and get start an eviction process. I believe that they have like 3 months where you could you have to give
Yeah.
a person I want to say at least 3 months, say,
Yes.
okay, this is your eviction. I wish I knew more about it. Like, I don't know if, I mean, if it's just a simple paperwork, I don't know. Like, do you need a reason to be evicting them? I don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, that gets complicated because,
Yeah.
unfortunately, too, when people are savvy, if they've been in treatment or they've been in jail, they know the laws better than
Yeah.
and
Because they all
sometimes.
sit there and yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
so I would, hope, it's a lot of times for the ignorance that, people just wouldn't know that, but yeah, I mean, because we're not just talking about too, like, son, being a parent of a child. I would, deal with a lot of times it was a spouse, I mean, and you're like, oh, how am I going to kick my husband out of the house? He's, on the mortgage, it's his house, or,
Right.
and, and some will leave, some will, say, okay, I'm going to go, and others are going to put up a fight, and you have to, you get physical, they can get
Right.
violent. So I would, Gregory, I would look into what it takes to start the eviction process.
Yes.
You know,
Even if you go online, there's so much information and you can start pulling things off. Even just, hey, Betty Ann, just pop it off and fill it out like you've seen a lawyer. Like, you know,
yeah,
start it on your own
right,
before you have to get all the money out and the legal stuff.
right,
Because that might even be,
enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
turn off all utilities and go stay somewhere. They will eventually leave.
I mean, you're basically a hostage in your own home,
Yeah.
and it is. I mean, it's horrible and it's incredibly scary, and it's the utter insanity. Um, and it's like some people have actually, and I don't, this might not be an answer for him specifically, but some people have actually left their houses and
Yes.
gone and stayed with other family members or gone to a hotel. I mean, I don't know how permanent that is,
Right.
but
I know a
you know,
woman that took her grandchildren and moved into an apartment for quite some time.
yep. I mean, who has the means to do that? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, oh, you own a house and I'm going to go and just rent another apartment. I mean, who has the money to do that? But whatever resources you may have, other family members, and that's the problem is a lot of times we don't talk about this with the other family members. So when you go to ask for help, it's like no one really knows what's going on. But even if they do, so I mean that, family members aren't always very helpful, unfortunately,
Right.
depending on our situation. Um, but the important thing though too with that is if you're going to do that, you gotta back it up. If
You
you
do.
are really gonna go to the courthouse and get an eviction, when the time comes, you're not just bluffing. Because if the moment that you back out and like and say you're gonna do something and then you don't do it, I'm
Those
sorry. I mean,
boundaries.
it's, and I mean, that's what that's what, and when I say they, I really, I mean, like, that's what the addiction, that's what the disease is looking for. Like, that's that loophole, that moment that they're, hoping, like, yeah, they're really not going to throw me out, so really be prepared, don't just say it. You have to follow through with
You
it.
do. If you're not setting boundaries that you can adhere to, they're going to step right over that one
Yep.
and then step over every other one
Yep.
after. So, and these are boundaries that you have to set and live with.
Right.
So you have to be really careful about the boundaries you're setting on your loved ones
Yes.
because if you can't live with it,
Right. Yeah,
that's going to be painful.
because they're going to leave, and then usually people tell me the moment they walk out the door, you're like, oh, I can't believe I just did that, and
Right.
and it's like you have to. and when I say you have to, I mean, it's like, it's not that like it's easy, but you have to tolerate that guilt that, was mentioned, and that, low point, that desperation, that sadness, that's what you have to tolerate, because if you don't, you're just going to keep, nothing changes if nothing
Nothing
changes.
changes.
So,
Yep.
it's about, tolerating those horrible feelings, taking that to a meeting, or, and I know meetings aren't always possible, especially now with COVID. But even when they were, regular, like, you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, well, there's really no meeting at 3 o'clock in the morning, but
Yes, there is.
there's, there you go, you can have your own meeting,
Right there.
and it only takes one other person to have a meeting, really,
Right.
but you
Right.
can call somebody, you can, break out your books, and, and whatever
Journaling.
other, journaling, praying,
Journaling's awesome.
but you have to allow yourself to feel that, because I mean, guilt and anger is basically the root of most of our decisions when it comes to this kind of stuff, and that's where we need to really, I like to say, check yourself before you're going to wreck yourself,
Exactly. Exactly.
because
And with that being said as well, there's this book here. It's called Beyond Addiction. This is such an important book to get if you have a loved one suffering from addiction, simply because it teaches you how to talk to your loved one, teaches you how to have a constructive conversation with your loved one. It helps you learn the tools to turn a combative conversation into a constructive conversation. It also helps gear them towards recovery versus throwing them out. I highly recommend this book. It's I can't say enough about it. And then you have the Naranon book. It's the Sharing Experience, Strength, and Hope. You can get both books on Amazon. Thank you. This book is awesome because it's a daily reader, so it's not like you have to read forever and ever. So this is awesome. When you are feeling a certain way at 3 o'clock in the morning and you don't want to call whoever's supporting you, you can go back to the back of the book and look up those feelings and read every chapter on that, just to help ground you. I know that helped ground me so much. And journaling also was my other lifesaver,
Yeah.
because
you got to find what works for you, you know, like some people aren't readers or journal, like, so whatever works for you.
Right.
And that's what I always loved about the group too, was that, like, you would share resources with each other. Oh, I just read this really good book, or learned about another meeting, or support group, or
Right.
webinar or seminar or something that's happening. So getting involved in these kinds of programs, and you get connected to so many people.
Right.
Like with the question that Gregory had with the legal stuff, I learned, I learned a lot from you guys. I
Right.
mean, you're coming back and telling me, hey, this is what I learned. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Put that in my
so
back pocket.
yeah, exactly, so like, so like there's, I mean, so that's where social media can really be a good positive thing, because you have access to people all over the world, right? Like, especially now with COVID, the virtual, has really opened up. So I know not everyone's really, a fan of, social media, or, like the internet, but the amount of resources. I mean, you could just go on a blog and ask, hey guys, how do I, get my daughter out of the house? And boom. I mean, you're going to get like hundreds of
Right.
comments of people saying, this is what I did. This is, I mean, it could get overwhelming too, because not, but,
Love you, Eric. See ya.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. This is.
I look like a teenager. I'll take that. Yeah. I mean,
Hey, Marge,
hey,
how are you
Marge,
doing?
hi.
Yeah, it's amazing the tools that you get when you start getting into this meeting. And I see Deborah in Jersey, they're allowing AA meetings up
Yeah.
to 30% capacity.
That's awesome.
started at 6 p.m. today. So I'm hoping to see
Yeah.
the family support groups getting back into that
Mm-hmm.
as well. I know that they are holding some Zoom meetings,
Yeah.
and they're great. It is a
Mm-hmm.
great opportunity, but you lose that connection,
Yeah.
and
Well, and you know what? You lose the before and after
mm-hmm,
too. Well, I mean, I guess you can like hop on the meeting a few minutes early, but there's something about standing in the parking lot, like after the meeting, like I mean,
Bob knows
yeah.
all about that.
I mean, I would sometimes, like the meeting would end at 8:30. I'm not getting home some nights till 9:30 at
Right,
night because
right,
you're just lingering and and I know
yeah,
I there were nights I mean there were some nights I was like like want to go home, I'm tired, but there were
yeah,
other
and we're
nights that
like, oh well,
yeah, exactly.
deal
Like
with it.
you're staying. But there were other nights that it was not. It felt social. Like it wasn't. It
Right,
didn't
it
feel like
wasn't.
work. It was like
Yeah,
I mean, you are my people.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's. I mean, we can talk about this stuff forever. I
For
mean,
days, days on end. And because it does, it's,
Mhm.
it eats up at you. It's
Mhm.
just the way. And I know this is living hopeful, and we always, try and keep everything as hopeful as we can, but we also know that there's another level of substance use disorder, and that is, you know the passing of our loved ones, that they just don't get it. They can't grasp the program that they're working, whether it's a 12-step program, whether it's an MAT program. They just can't seem to grasp it. And I get that. And tomorrow happens to be Black Balloon Day, and that represents all of those that we have lost due to overdose. So I just wanted to mention that, because anybody that has lost a loved one, my heart goes out to you. I send the family support and strength, because I can't imagine. I really can't imagine. I know how dark and desperate and devastating I felt, knowing that it could happen to my child, it could happen to my loved ones. So, I can't even imagine how much deeper and darker that can get.
Mhm.
But I do, every year I do celebrate their lives. This year I did a memorial wall. It went from a poster to a wall, and that's very sad. So if you have lost a loved one, somebody that's lost a loved one, go grab some black balloons, put it out, and tomorrow I will have a candle lit with the poster outside. I'm hoping for not so windy day. If not, I will find something to do to represent them. And I know that's a really down, depressing moment, but it's the reality of this disease. So we have to stay strong. We have to keep our hope. The
Mhm.
hope is the only thing we have in this. So,
Mhm.
we have to we have to know that there is, that possibility, but as long as they're breathing and they're here, there is hope and
Mhm.
there's strength.
Yeah.
So, sorry about the downer part
Well,
there, but
it's a
it's
real,
the
very
disease.
real
It's
part.
sad.
Mhm.
So,
Well.
get out there and get that support. It's
Mhm.
so important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, and to be able to, have the hope, and then if you have lost somebody, to really allow yourself to feel that grief. Grief is a really funky thing, and it comes and goes in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I've experienced a lot of people, that have a really hard time allowing themselves to feel it. And you know I think we could have started a support group, spin off of parent group of just those that lost,
Mm-hmm.
um, their a son or daughter, or not just son or daughter, a family member.
Mm-hmm.
So there are grief groups. I've never been to one personally, but I always remember hearing about GRASP, grief recovery after substance passing. It's abbreviated as GRASP, and the whole point was, for people that
Right.
did lose somebody that, is directly a result of substance use disorder. Because sometimes people will go to other grief groups or bereavement groups and just felt very, judged, or, felt the stigma, like, oh, well, because they chose that, like my
Right.
person didn't, choose to die from cancer or get into a car accident, so people would just really feel some type of way. So that group was
Yeah.
started. But I'm hoping, part of the practice that I'm involved in is, we try to do, different virtual presentations every other month. And the next one is going to be this month, but we're hoping one to be soon to cover the topic of grief. And it's like, it's not ever going to be an easy topic to cover, and like, oh
No.
yeah, like, come and listen to the,
Right.
but
Right.
but it's important, it's necessary. And so I, giving people a safe space to be able to listen and talk, and just, experience their grief.
Right.
So
And Janet, just, I mean, I have heard so many stories that are so much harder and so much more devastating. There's hope, and you have to know that, she's been to a few of these rehabs, so each time she goes, she's getting another seed planted, and hopefully she'll be strong enough to separate from the boyfriend, and stay away so that she can get to where she needs to be. It gets tiring. They tire out. So let's hope she reaches that pivotal moment again, and the
yeah.
boyfriend goes his way, and she can stick to her grounds. And it may be that she needs to get out of here. She needs to do treatment somewhere else, somewhere
Yeah.
other than Pennsylvania. So, consider those options. I know it's scary. At least you know where you can go find her if you want to. But, I mean, not everybody does well in other states or whatever. However,
Yeah.
some people just need to get out of that people, places, things
Yeah.
that can just keep dragging them down,
Right.
dragging them down. So,
Yeah, no, Janet, I remember you. I mean, I my heart breaks for you. This is just such a devastating and exhausting journey. But you know, I was at Livingren for almost 18 years, and if I, started to really think that there was such a thing as a lost cause, I would not have lasted all of those years.
right.
I mean, I know you're the one that's experiencing it, and it's your story, it's your journey, and you're not in a rehab to see the hundreds of people that come through on a regular basis that you would think would be a lost cause. And like, I mean, how many times they've been in and out, in and out. I mean, listening to people talk about the amount of times they've been in rehabs and overdoses in jails, and and then to see people get, that they do get it, they do get sober. I've seen the miracle. I believe it, I see it, so it's like, I mean, I know me saying that, yeah, it might offer a little bit of comfort, but at the end of the day, it's still really hard for you, to believe that when you haven't really experienced it. So I remember saying that a lot to families. I say, if you don't, you've been so much exposed to the addiction. Now, really try to get out there and expose yourself to the recovery. And, some parent groups, sometimes it's really, I know, again, meetings with COVID right now, but how many parents would go to open AA or NA or CA meetings, I mean, I remember one set of parents, they went so much that they actually got pulled aside and said, okay, guys, like, like, we love you, we think you're great people, but this isn't really, where you're supposed to be. We really think you should go to Al-Anon. They kind of overstayed their welcome, but that's how much they liked it, because
Right.
I'll never forget, the dad said, he was like, I'm sitting there listening to this, I don't know, 50-something-year-old woman sitting there speaking, and he's like, and she's telling my 18-year-old son's story. He's like, how is that possible? He's 18. He's a boy. He's a kid. She's a 50-year-old woman, and they got like the same story. And I loved seeing that they took that chance and went to those meetings, because that's scary, like, oh,
Yeah.
like, especially if you feel like you're not an addict, an alcoholic, like, yeah, that's why you have to go to open ones, right? Like the open ones, they welcome you. But yeah, I mean, it's a great experience. I mean, so Janet, I don't know if she's done that, or
Right.
would or could, but and I know parent group, I would try to bring in speakers. I'd say, okay, if parents aren't going to get to the AA meetings, I'll bring the AA meeting to you, and I would bring in speakers to share their recovery experience so that you could get hope. So, I remember saying, if you can't trust in your loved one, trust in the process. Trust in, recovery. People do get better. So
They
yeah,
do.
Janet, pray, and you have to, no matter how hard it is, you have to still live your life,
You do.
get up every day, do what you need to do, not just go through, the motions, try to actually enjoy your life,
Right.
I mean, I don't know if I can't remember if she has other children, I think Janet, I think she had other
I'm not.
kids.
I think she has another daughter. I
Yeah,
believe.
I'm not sure. I don't know. But, I mean, other family members, friends, like, I mean, I know saying to a mom, your kids, not your whole life. I mean, I might get smacked saying that, but you have a lot of other things to, to,
Yeah.
to live for.
Yeah. Mine's not anymore. I have
Yeah.
grandchildren now.
There
So
you go.
sorry, honey.
But that was part of my analogy with saying the yes, three others. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's, the quicksand analogy. It's
Yes,
like
I love that.
you're trying to pull them out of the quicksand, but they're pulling you down with it. And Janet, like while you're in there with your daughter, and I don't, when you're in there, I don't mean like, you're going into Kensington running after her, like, but emotionally, you're in there with her, your other children, like they're maybe losing out, on their mom, who's maybe not completely present, in the visits and the time spent together. And I don't mean that to make you feel guilty, right? Because that, you want another reason to feel guilty. But we have to really take a look at how, our lives don't stop, because, your daughter's been exposed to treatment. She knows what she needs to do, like to get help, to live your life, and enjoy your life. Not, like I said, not just exist. And
Right.
all easier said than done, of course.
Exactly. Because in the beginning, we
Hi,
do
Diane. Yeah.
we do stop our life. And another famous little name up there, Colleen, is here with us tonight.
Yep.
Diane is here with us. She just popped in. Dorothy is a mom who used to come to my meetings when they were in
Okay.
Bristol.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah. Gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a long time ago.
Are you still in touch with them? Or?
Not really. Just a couple of
Yeah.
us still are in touch, and we still talk.
Yeah.
And for everybody that is coming on, I have Dana Cohen here, who saved my life. She was the family counselor at Living Green with me, and she has left us. And
I abandoned. No.
yeah, and started her own thing called Insight Psychological Services.
Yeah.
And she did save my life. She was amazing.
Well, and I love hearing that. I mean, and it's like I feel like I was able to be a guide. And I am a spiritual person, and I do believe that kind of God worked through me. And that's why I was there for the time that I was. I was unfortunately not able to be there forever like I
Right.
thought I would maybe at one point in my life, but I was there for that amount of time to do parent group. That, I mean, I started doing that in 2013. We got a really good 6-7 years out of that group. And but yeah, like I think that was just, it was my part, to to guide, to be a part of that journey with you guys.
Yep.
You know, because you guys saved your own lives, right? Like, you know, like I know you say that, like, oh, you know, and it's like, you know, I was there to just kind of
Yeah.
guide you, you know,
Yeah.
show you the way. You know,
She picked
you
me up.
ultimately, you
Out of
did it, you know, because you're the one that kept coming back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you got it, you know, and I really hope that families can, you know, give themselves that pat on the back, because that's not an easy thing. We're not always the most humble people, you know, and
No.
um, you know,
No.
we could eat some humble pie and really, you know, give ourselves props. This is not easy stuff. So when you have gone to meetings and doing just this tonight, you know, I mean, this, you know, it's a late night, it's Friday night, you know,
Right.
like, you know, everyone's tired from the work week, you know, but people are tuning in. So, you know, just the fact that you're doing this right here, right now, like, give yourself a pat on the back for
Right.
that.
I mean, and if it helps one person, even one person,
Sure.
sleep tonight. Just have a good night's sleep. I mean,
Sure.
sometimes we just need one night's sleep
Yeah.
just to recharge.
Yeah. I,
It's
you know,
it's tough out there. It's with COVID right now, the isolation. It's
yeah, I'm hoping the next event I'm doing, and it's going to be Thursday, March 18th, which is only, you know, 2 weeks away or so. And, you know, we're going to be addressing how the pandemic, you know, if you, it's a year, you know, next week or something, you know, March 12th, I think, you know, it's going to be a year. So we're going to, acknowledge the year, and you know, I have two speakers, one person in long-term recovery, another person going to be speaking from you know, their professional, you know, experience, being able to see how treatment, relapse, recovery, it's all been affected by COVID. You know, I've been in private practice, I'm a little out of touch with that, you know, world. You know, I can only imagine what Living Grin's like, you know, what rehabs are like right now with
oh
COVID.
I
And I mean, there's no family program, right? You know, like I wouldn't, I don't know what I would be doing if I was still working there.
right.
You
I
know,
mean,
I,
everything's virtual.
right.
Even in, I think
There's,
now they're coming together and
okay.
meeting, but before, you know, they were meeting where they were meeting through
Yeah.
virtual,
Yeah,
like
there's no
no
visiting.
contact, like, and the volunteers, they're not accepting any
Nope.
volunteers right now, and it's sad because this disease is such a the need for the need for that hug, the need for that handshake, that need for that smile.
Yep. Yeah, it's an epidemic within a pandemic, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
and
scary.
you know, I remember, you know, people saying, you know, with, you know, struggling with not being able to go to meetings, especially in the beginning, they're like, you know, I already have a disease that wants me dead. You know, yes, COVID, you know, is deadly, and you know, but it's like, you know, we already have something that, you know, we're fighting regularly, and you know, it's horrible. I mean, you know, drug and alcohol, mental health.
Oh
I mean, yeah, because like you said, isolation, and isolation is not a good thing
no,
for people with, you know, substance use issues or mental health issues.
yeah,
So,
the relapse right now
yeah,
is so high.
yeah, we're going to
It's
be seeing the effects of this
yeah,
for a long
the
time.
suicide,
Yeah,
the relapse is
yeah,
just devastating
yeah.
right now. So we will be posting the event on Living Hopeful. So keep your eyes
Okay,
open
thank you.
when when
Yeah,
she
I should
gets that
be
together.
getting that on
We'll
Monday.
pop that up. I always share events that Dana has because she's very great at what she does. She just really is.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
it's just important that we have this support because so many families still to this day are just peeking out the window like, oh, they don't know. I don't know. You know, nobody knows what's going on behind my,
right.
closed curtain, and it's a shame because too many lives are being lost and too many lives are being just turned over.
I remember most of what I remember hearing families say that struggled with other people knowing or finding out. A lot of times they would come to realize the neighbors know. They're not, you're not hiding anything, you know. I mean, depending on how close your neighbors are, but you know, people, you have windows open or, you know, but and oftentimes the family also knows, and even they may not know the details, but they know something's going on.
The funniest thing about that is usually it's the neighbors that know even before the parents know.
That I've definitely have heard that. Yeah.
Because they see the comings and goings
Right.
that the parents don't see. The parents are in bed, the parents are cooking dinner,
Yep.
and they're seeing
The drug dealer making a drop off on the front
right,
lawn,
the
or yeah,
comings and
no,
goings.
yeah, it's very true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's eye opening. This whole disease.
And that's where it's like, yeah, to take that risk, and talking about it, whether it's a coworker, or I mean, I remember a father saying he didn't even want to celebrate his birthday with his twin sister because he was scared, that she would know something wasn't right, and he'd feel like he'd have to talk about it. And he took the risk, and he told her what was going on, and she was incredibly supportive. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it's always like that. I
Right.
do think the reality is what our fears do are true at times, when we're afraid to tell people because we are going to be judged or criticized or shamed. That does happen. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, take the risk and you'll be pleasantly surprised. The hope is that you're pleasantly surprised, but you might not be. But my point is, you do it anyway, because then at least you'll know where you stand, who how that person stands in your
Right.
life, and you'll be like, okay, I'm not going to go to Aunt Susie, like, because she's kind of being, crappy about this whole thing,
Right.
So and sometimes, again, like, people already, they already get a sense of that, and I understand that. Like, you might, be so used to Aunt Susie, talking, gossiping about, other people, and you're like, all right, well, I don't really want to talk to her about that. But again, you'd still might be surprised that when it comes down to it and you talk to her about your own situation, she's much more supportive than you maybe would give her
Right.
credit for. So, you're almost kind of judging your family members. You're figuring they're going to judge you, but you're
Right.
maybe kind of judging them from, off the
Right.
bat. So
Right.
we do sometimes have to give people a chance. But, and again, if they meet our expectation, be like, yep, Aunt Susie, she's not good,
There's that
then
grapevine.
then we know, all right, we're not going to talk to her about this. But
That vine's growing.
so, and it's also, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it's, there are teachable moments, like, if, Uncle Joe is like, like, well, just tell him to, grow up already, or, tell him to knock it off. And you're like, oh, okay, I didn't think about that one. All right. But you could actually say, well, hey, yeah, Uncle Joe, I did try that. And, it's not as easy. And, like, you might be able to talk to Uncle Joe about it in another way that you wouldn't have come up before. So, you know, I mean, and not every moment has to be teachable. Trust me, there are times we can kind of pick and choose your
There's
moments,
some times that I need to
So,
pick and choose, and I
you know,
just need to learn that
yeah,
one
yeah.
day. I need to, because I
Yeah,
get very,
yeah. No, I
I'm
agree.
very,
Like, right on in there,
uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving until you get it, okay?
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Um,
that's not going to go over
yeah.
too well for anybody.
No, no. And Betty Ann, you're right, because, we're always talking about people that are still suffering from substance use disorder. We're not discussing recovery. And it's very eye opening when you do hear there's more people in recovery than there are actively using, that are nursing, that are teaching, that are doing amazing things with their lives. I follow a girl on Facebook who has the past that I don't even think she would be able to get a job at McDonald's. I mean, her past is so sad from this disease. And she's finding her way through a multi marketing industry, and she's doing a great job, and she's getting her life back, she's getting her children back, she's built up, and this is what recovery looks like. And we have to remember that there's more people in recovery than there are on the street. Maybe not as much today, like it was back in the day. And we also have to remember that there's more people that are addicted to alcohol and dying from alcohol than there are from opiates.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, people, since the opiate epidemic hit, we kind of put alcohol on the back burner. And it's getting very relevant right now because of COVID.
Yeah, it's easier to access, maybe. Well, not easier, but it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, now it is because they're opening up all the stores again. But
yeah. No, I mean it's and that's the thing. I mean, trends are going to come and go. I mean, I mean, opiates is here to stay. It's been here for a very long time. I mean, but it's getting worse. But yeah, you don't ever want to lose sight of the other substances that have been here all along,
Right.
and again are not going anywhere. And alcohol is very dangerous, and a lot of times people do the whole, oh well, it's just alcohol,
Right.
I over my years I realized I didn't really become a fan of the word just.
just.
Well, it's just, alcohol. It's
Yeah, it's
just a
just.
couple times a week. It's
Yeah.
just, snorting it,
Yeah. It's just a pill. It's not like they're shooting it up.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
great. Hey, Lori. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And you were talking earlier about open meetings. And I suggest, especially right now because of the Zoom meetings, to get into one, to see that. Because one of the best books that I've read was AA, Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You learn a lot about yourself.
Well, I think there's the family forward, I think, and then there's the chapter to the wives in that. I mean, it's been a long time since I've read that,
Yeah.
but I still think it's funny that, the big book, AA, it was written by, like, who was it written by?
Bob.
Thank you.
Oh, Bill
Bill
Wilson.
my God. And he wrote the chapter to the wives, and I just still think it's kind of funny. It's like, well, but you weren't, that, like, Lois.
Right.
Lois was his wife. She should have written that
Right,
chapter, but
right.
but no, I mean, it definitely hits home to a lot of people.
It does, and it does. It helps. It really helps you understand yourself and your part in this, because we all have a part in
Yes.
this.
Yes.
We didn't cause it. We did not,
No, and you can't control it,
and we can't control it.
and you
Can't cure it. Shut up.
It's the 3 C's.
And I made the
Yes.
4th. We don't have to condone it either. So, it's and that the 3 C's used to just eat me up. Ugh. But
Yeah.
the longer you're in it, the longer you hear it, and the better you grasp onto it. And these slogans help you get through a day. It just does.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it works. It's a tool that I was like, these people. We were just talking about this on Saturday because we used to go with my uncle to his AA meetings. We would sit in the laundromat, and as soon as his AA meeting was over, we would all jump in the car and go to the bar, because he wasn't there because he wanted to be.
Right.
He was there because the police said, guess what? You're going to pay for that street light you took down. So
Yeah.
we used to joke about it. We used to make fun about it. And you would see a car driving down the street, and like Easy does it. Oh, he's an alcoholic. Like, it was it's just what we did.
Yeah.
And little did I know that today I sit here and I hear these things, and I'm like, man.
You're not making fun of them anymore.
And how powerful they
Right.
are. They really are powerful when you work it and you listen to it and you use it in your daily life. It's amazing how much strength you get by it. It is amazing.
Yeah. One of my favorites was, from Al-Anon talking, say what you mean what you say, but you don't have to say it mean.
Right.
That I always really liked, because it's, and it doesn't always matter how you say something, the other person's going to have their reaction, but, and how much we learn, what we can control and what we can't. And then,
Right.
the serenity prayer, is another huge, part to it. So, just, what you can control is yourself and not anybody else. And,
Right.
you know,
And it's a powerful saying, but it's also powerful when you say it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to need it in front of me because I'll screw it up if I don't, because I'm going to add the names to it. Good. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, my loved one, the things, courage to change the things I can, me, and the wisdom to know the difference. When you add my loved one and me to it,
yeah,
it's like in your face.
yeah,
And it helps you understand that more when you add that little
yeah,
kick to it.
definitely.
And I learned that from a person in my Monday night family
Okay.
group at Living Grin. When they had
Okay.
that, she would always recite that, and she would say, Lori, just recite it and say, my loved
Right.
one and you, like, put that in there.
And you can replace, I mean, for anything. And I always loved hearing families say, I can apply this program to all aspects of my life, and then like, yeah, like that's, pretty empowering when you see that, because, like, you can put coworker, and the things I cannot control, my boss,
Right.
like anything can be replaced in that. And that's also part of, like, when they, the first step in AA, when they say my life has become unmanageable, for family members, like, it's not, alcohol that, made your life unmanageable. It's the alcoholic, but, you could put anything in there,
Right.
when, your desire to control, has become, has created unmanageability. Your, perfectionism, whatever, defect we may have, you can, put in that. And, if your life has become unmanageable as a result of that, whatever that it is, we got a problem. I mean, we don't all need to go to rehab problem, but it's something that needs to be addressed, and that can be addressed in therapy or in a support group or in just our own self-care, and really digging deep and saying, okay, like, why am I allowing my boss or whatever it is to create this unmanageability in my life?
And that,
So,
I say, if it was mandatory for everybody in this country, in this world, to work a 12-step program,
world would be a better
let me
place.
tell you,
Uh-huh.
we would have birds landing in our hands and talking to us, and like,
Yeah,
it is so spiritual and uplifting, this program. It really is.
yeah.
And I've learned a lot. There's a lot of stress in life. There's just so much stress, and I'm learning to just go and just take care of me, like, breathe deep, walk away from it, and
And I'm glad, I
reconnect.
mean, and that was always something that we would, have, bring it back to, in the groups, because, of course, you come there, about your son or daughter or whoever, and, we could spend hours talking about them. And, it was part of my job and the group's job a lot of times to bring it back to, well, what about you? We could sit here all night and talk about them, and okay, great,
Right.
but you still have to go home at the end of the night with yourself. So, self-care, would always be talked about. And I'm not talking about cliche stuff like, bubble baths and massages, which, and for some people, that is how they choose to maintain their self-care. But I mean, that sometimes is like an image that we have in mind. It's like, it could be anything.
Yep.
And to me, it's not a luxury like a massage might be. It's a necessity.
Right.
And I mean, that's why I'm not saying like it's something like, oh, just treat yourself. Like, no, it's not a treat.
No. No,
It's
it's just
it to me, it's like, what are things that we do every day, hopefully all of us brush our teeth, take a shower. We do things, and it's like you don't even think about them anymore. You don't
Right.
think,
It's
oh, I
just,
gotta brush my teeth. Like we just do it. We've been doing it our whole lives. So I would love to maybe help people find ways to incorporate their self care just into their every. I mean, it might not be every single day, maybe, but into their daily routines, because it's like I said, it's necessary. It's not a luxury.
right.
So
And Betty Ann, your sister, God bless her, and may she stay strong with it, especially during this time, especially being a nurse during this time. The stress has to be terrible and unfortunate for her boyfriend to have ended so horribly. But again, we go back to people, places, and things. And if he was still in the picture, like, where would she be right now? It's sometimes we have to step away from what's hurting us. Sometimes we don't realize that it is the person hurting us. So it's important to talk to your loved ones when you do talk to them, and mention where your life was before that person, what they were doing before that time, and start letting them think about where they were before substance hit their brains. And hopefully every time you talk about that, you're making sure that you're making it about you and not putting it on them and making it combative. That's a tough one. So always keep it about you. That's the most important thing. We're at 10:10 tonight. Is there anybody that wants to ask any questions, have any concerns? Please share it in the comments. If you do not want to share it in the comments, because they'll know you're here, we have a call-in number at 267-737-8031. You are more than welcome to give us a call now, and we can answer any questions that you may have. So feel free to text it, call it. We're here, we're listening. If you do call in and you do not want your name mentioned, please just say you're Joe Bag of Donuts. Whatever. Make up a name. But we're here to answer any questions. I hope that you're getting a lot of information. And so how is your private practice going? Good?
Yeah, it is. I mean, definitely, COVID impacted it, in the very beginning, but slowly able to, getting clients again. I finally did get licensed, so that was one good
Awesome.
thing that came out of 2020. Thank you. That was been a long journey. I
Yes.
graduated in
Yes.
2013. So, well, when I started parent group.
Right.
So, it's whatever. But yeah, so that's was pretty big. But no, I mean, I'd say I'm probably 50-50 as far as virtual and in person. It's whatever's more comfortable for the client. It's nice to be able to provide that. It is a good thing that came out of COVID was learning. I was definitely out of my comfort zone when that first happened. I've never done virtual before, and now it's like it's any
second
other
nature.
day. Yeah, so that's I'm really pleased. I mean, because it needed something like that for me to, and many of us, to get comfortable with this kind of technology.
Right.
But yeah, so I not all of my clients have substance abuse issues, which was kind of funny at first. It's like, like, oh, you just have like just regular life stuff,
Oh,
right?
really?
Okay. It made me realize like how much I'm so enmeshed in, and immersed in drug and alcohol world. But no, I mean, and a lot of my clients do, have substance use issues, and I still run my significant other support group that I do that twice a month. That is for, like if you're the spouse, significant other of the a person with addiction. That's always been a really good group. Always been glad to run that. I try to run the parent group as much and as often as I can. Unfortunately, schedules, it's not always, an easy thing to fit in,
Right.
schedule wise, but, I try to do the, every other month, a free, webinar or, presentation online, hoping, the goal was to be able to do them in person, and I
Right.
was doing them. That's, part
Right.
of that picture up there, that was the space that I'm in Willow Grove allows, it's a decent size. You were there,
Right.
it's a decent size little, room, but, that's going to probably be a long time since we'll be back in that.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's going great. I mean, the practice is it's just three of us. It's myself and another woman named Cindy, Ryan Otto, and Bill Lorman. And Cindy, she does a lot of the individual work, holistic, and Bill is a prescriber. So right now, we don't actually take insurance, which I know is a pretty big barrier for a lot of people, but we do try to keep our rates reasonable. And so does Bill, being a prescriber, he definitely keeps his rates reasonable. So if anyone's having issues, because finding a psychiatrist that has a background in drug and alcohol is, I mean, it's gold,
It's major
So
gold
yeah,
right now. It
because
really is.
So he is retired. He's only there one maybe 2 days a week, but we're all very passionate about helping people. But I love it. I mean, it's a change from inpatient world. I mean, I
Right.
miss inpatient. I miss Living Grin. I miss a lot of all of that. But this is also new and exciting, and
Right.
I get to create my own hours, and I do have a weekend now, which I didn't before.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I miss the parent group mostly.
Yeah.
That was a really really big piece of my heart. So
Yeah.
but
Hey, Bob, nice of you to pop in now that it's at the end. Bob likes us
hey
to have
Bob.
a meeting out in the parking lot
Yeah,
before he
yeah,
starts his
that's
meetings.
yeah. No, I definitely get that. Hey Bob. Yeah. I mean, Bob, I passed the torch on
Yes.
to Bob. I mean, how willing, I don't know. I was like, here you go. Like, you're
There you
taking
go.
it.
Yeah.
But no, Bob, he did it very gracefully
Uh-huh.
because it's not an easy thing to take,
No. No.
parents,
And it was difficult in the beginning because he wasn't you.
Well, yeah. And
We
I'm not Bob,
right, exactly. And everybody has their own flow, and Bob's getting there. He's got there. He has gotten there
No.
with a lot of support. And Jen, how do you stop missing them, the person who you knew they really are? And that is the one thing that is hard to deal with. For me, it was.
Well, to remember that they're still in there,
Right.
And so what worked for me, and I shared this in Day of Enlightenment always, was the Mucinex commercial. Like then I mean, like, not the current ones. I don't even know if they even
I haven't
make
even
them
seen a
now.
commercial in
Yeah,
so long.
but the Mucinex commercial, it was like the little green monster inside the person's chest, and like, oh, I'm gonna make I'm gonna live here now. I remember watching that one day and being like, that's the disease that's inside my person. My person's not the monster. So, like, kind of like remembering, like, that visual, like, they're still in there. Like, I mean, there's moments of clarity that sometimes happen that, like, you get, moments or maybe even hours of seeing that, and to holding on, knowing that they are in there, and that when, and not if, but when they, get sober, you're going to see that again, and even a better version of it too.
Right.
Hopefully. I mean, sometimes, but
Yeah. And a lot of times it's you get uh, just a better person. Sometimes it's sickening how better they are. It's
yeah,
just like, oh, shut up already. Like,
yeah,
and but it's a change. It's a change, and a lot of times it's for the better. And, you know, the one meme that really made me understand what I was going through was, a parent's worst nightmare is mourning a child that is still alive. That is the reality of this disease. It really is. And it was just like, boom,
Yeah.
there's the light. It wasn't the hate, it wasn't the fear, that wasn't, you know, not that I hated the person, I hated the drug. I hated what the drug did to the person. And when I saw that meme, I was just like, bam. That's where it's at. That's all of my feelings all wrapped up in that little meme.
And that's why, you know, when I was saying earlier about grief and allowing yourself to feel it, it's not, you know, grief is not just, you know, to death.
Right.
You know, it could be the loss of a marriage, the loss of a job, the loss of yourself. You know, we would run grief groups in rehab a lot and talk about that, you know, and you know, and for parents, for family members, it's the loss of what you thought was
Woulda,
going
coulda,
to
shoulda.
be.
Yep.
You know, you think you're gonna, you know, your child is gonna have a certain type of future, and they still can, right? You know, it's
Right.
not, you know, that's not done, but for right now, that's not what it
Right.
is. And you're mourning that loss and allowing yourself to mourn that loss. And sometimes even just hearing somebody say that to you, like how you just saw a meme and like you were like, oh
It was just
wow,
like,
like
boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like their aha moment when they get, you
yeah,
know, into treatment because they want it. It's just, it was my, like, damn,
yeah,
that's powerful. That's exactly what I felt.
yeah.
Amazing.
And that's part of what people would be able to share in those groups of being able to say, I feel like I feel like I've already lost them or
Right.
mourning them, you know, and people can relate to that. So, yeah.
Because especially with me growing up, a lot of my friends are dead because of heroin back in the day. That wasn't even killing them, it was what they were mixing it with. So, you know, I've had a lot of loss. I remember my sister coming back and like, oh, let's go see that one. They've died. Let's go see that they've died. All due to heroin and not because of the drug itself, because back then it wasn't as strong as it is today, but it was what they were mixing it with.
Yeah.
And, you know, when it hits your front door, it's, you don't see, you know, recovery. You don't see it and you don't hear it because recovery's anonymous. Like the anonymous programs are keeping it hidden. It's keeping it behind that closed door. And I think today, our society bringing it out in the open and not being anonymous anymore, but still working the program, but being outspoken about their recovery, how they went from losing their home, their car, their family, their spouse, everything,
Yeah.
their clothes. That's all they had were on the back of them is their clothes, which finally, you know, had to go get donated clothes, and food from whoever is, you know, handing it out, to getting back to school, getting an amazing job, buying a new house, having a new marriage,
Yep.
children.
Living life beyond their wildest
Right,
dreams. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And they say that, like, when you, my favorite is speaker night. That speaker night is my favorite because you get so much hope. I know when my loved one was in, when my loved one was in the rehab, it just it's just so hard for me because that's all I could see was death, death, death. And then it was back to Living Room Day.
Oh,
And I stayed for the whole day because it was the first time I got to see my loved one. And they brought out the speakers at the end, and I was just like, wow, that was my first sense of hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, they do recover. They
Mm-hmm.
do. They don't all just die.
Mm-hmm.
So that was so eye opening and so helpful to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
No,
you,
I loved Back to Living Green Day for lots of reasons, but that was one of them, was getting to see the families that just, your loved one happens to be in rehab at that time, and you get a special bonus, right? Like you get to visit, but you get
right?
a picnic and you get an extra hour or what,
Yeah,
whatever it was, but and you also got a meeting, and I mean, the hope was that they stayed for it, but yeah, you got to see it right there.
yeah,
Because that's what I mean. Like when I said earlier, like you were exposed to the addiction, now get exposed to recovery.
yeah,
And, because I would have a lot of families, come in, to the program very upset and resentful that they had to be there. And be like, lady, I've been dealing with this for 20 plus years. And I'm like, okay, and I would find a soft way to go
yeah,
about it. But you've been dealing with addiction for the past 20 years.
right,
What type of exposure to recovery have you really had,
right,
like, and that's what I really came to find a lot of my years there is how much experience people have with addiction but not with recovery.
exactly.
And I mean, you get it, why, but so it's like kind of like, what are your expectations, yeah, of course you've seen all the horror that this, has to offer, but you haven't really been exposed to much of the hope and
Right.
the miracle of what recovery offers. And like I said, I would not have lasted there. I wouldn't have lasted there a year if I didn't see that.
See that
You
you
know.
have to,
Yeah.
because this is a scary
Mhm.
process. It is a very scary process. And Liz, you're so right. Again, after dark, I used to watch their program
Yes. Yeah.
from 11 to 1 every morning. He was on every single day from 11 at night, 1 in the morning. And
Well, that's way
so
past my
many
bedtime.
people tuned in to that, and it helps so many people because, and he did those hours because there aren't any meetings, there aren't any, you know,
Mhm.
connections that late at night.
Yeah.
And so many people that may have popped in
Mhm.
was amazing.
Sure.
How many were helped on that program.
Yeah.
And that's why I decided I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
I hope even if it helps one
Yeah.
family member, one person, I hope that they can walk away and say, I can sleep tonight. I can get,
Mhm.
through another day, because that is what addiction is. It's taking it one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 second at a time. So
Yeah.
that's very important for us.
Mm.
I want to thank you for coming
Thank
and
you.
talking to us.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I
I,
love doing stuff like this. Getting to see you guys.
yes,
Now.
with all this fancy
Mhm. No, this is really
hookup,
cool.
he's
Yeah.
he's he's hooked me up
Mhm.
good.
Yes.
I'm gonna get a makeup
Well.
girl soon. And if he can get a screen to make me look like a size 3, I would love that.
Yeah.
But guys, thanks for coming out with us tonight.
Yes.
Thanks for hanging with us. This is Dana again,
Mhm.
Dana Cohen from Insight Psychological Services. She is in Willow Grove.
Yep.
I
Right off the
will,
turnpike.
yep,
Yep.
I have her flyer already in the photos on Living Hopeful. I will post it again for anybody that may know somebody that may need that information. She's an awesome, awesome person that just adds so much hope and understanding. So look
Thank you.
her up, check her out,
All right.
and thank you guys for joining us.
Yes.
I hope you have a great week. And again, God bless all of those that have lost somebody to addiction. My prayers for strength are with you, and just have a good week. If you are struggling, please, please call me 267-737-8031. Text me. Bob, He's going to have a cooking show. He's going to heat up a slice of pizza when we're done.
I'm heating up the fryer as I speak.
But yeah, guys, give us a call. I'm here and I am available to talk whenever you need to talk. If I don't answer, I will get back to you as soon as possible. You can text me, you can call me. We're here, we're listening, and we hope you have a good week and stay safe.
Remember, it works if you work it.
Yeah. So work it because you're worth it.
Peace out.